How many people know this, but Mr. Rogers is responsible for saving the adult film industry. You see, in the late 1970s, the Japanese company Sony introduced a new device to the United States market, and it was called the VCR. And with this new device, you could go to the store and buy tapes with movies and TV shows on them and watch them at home whenever you wanted, which was amazing because prior to the advent of the VCR and home media, at any given time, 99% of everything ever made was unwatchable to you. But there was somebody who didn't think it was a very good idea, and it was movie studios who thought that home video was going to be the death of movie theaters. So in 1976, Warner Brothers and Disney brought a lawsuit to the U.S. District Court asking for all home media technology to be banned in the United States. The case was thrown out in 1979 by the court, but Warner Brothers and Disney appealed, and in 1983, the case was brought to the Supreme Court. But this time, they had some much more powerful allies. Jack Valenti, the head of the government organization, the MPAA, the guy who literally created the movie rating system, was a staunch supporter of Warner Brothers and Disney in their efforts to get home media banned in the United States. He was quoted as saying, "The VCR is to the American film producer and the American public as the Boston Strangler is to the woman home alone." Quite a statement. So things were not looking good for the VCR in the US. But then the Supreme Court brought in a very important material witness to give a testimony, and that was our man, Fred Rogers. Rogers was no stranger to giving powerful testimonies that saved entire institutions. He spoke in front of Congress in 1969, begging them to not cut funding to PBS, and his speech was so powerful and moving that Congress ended up doubling the budget of PBS. And it just so happened that he was a huge believer in this new technology of the VCR because he felt like it gave families and children flexibility and power to watch programming around their own schedules. So instead of children having to sit there and wait for TV shows to come on and miss important opportunities and events in their lives to catch a single TV show, they could just tape it and watch it at their leisure. And he thought that that was incredibly important. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of Sony and the VCR, and in their landmark decision, they explicitly stated that their sole reason for this was because of Rogers' testimony. But here's the thing. In the early 80s, the adult film industry was on the verge of collapsing. It's hard to imagine now, but at the time, the only source of seeing these kinds of films was going to theaters in the public. And more people just weren't going to the theaters anymore. Throughout the early 80s, the advent of the VCR was a huge shot in the arm for the industry. And it went from being this seedy back alley thing where you had to go into a dark theater and sit with a bunch of other people and you didn't really want anybody to know about it, to a huge home video empire that rivaled the mainstream film industry in terms of money earned. And though he had no idea and probably could have never anticipated it when he made that testimony, it was because of Fred Rogers. So, thanks?